If Republicans were smart, they would join with Democrats to impeach and remove this criminal piece of shit from office. Now, we know that's not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. And honestly, it's probably not so much a question of intelligence as it is a question of courage or lack thereof. They're all a bunch of cowards, which is why they won't do it. But if they could vote in secret, they would do it. Like they would, I am convinced, they would vote overwhelmingly to impeach and remove him from office. In fact, they would have done it certainly in that second impeachment. He would have been convicted in the Senate and he would no longer be a problem for us. But they don't get to vote by secret ballot, and they're afraid of the cult. And as long as Donald Trump maintains sufficient support among the cult base of the Republican Party, they won't go against him. But things are beginning to change. And honestly, this is actually not what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about these friggin' war crimes. I want to make a few points about this because people are I knew this was going to happen. People are completely missing the point now because of this second strike, this murder of those two guys who survived the initial attack. Everyone's focused on that, and now they're missing the point. I knew this was going to happen. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. Let me just finish the thought about the politics. The recent Gallup poll that came out last Friday showed that Donald Trump is down to 84% approval among Republicans. Now, that's still high. It's still sufficiently high that Republicans aren't going to turn on him in any, in big numbers. It's not going to happen yet. But that 84%, that's down from 91% the month earlier. He lost 7 points in just 1 month among Republicans. So things are beginning to change. Things are going to look a lot different a year from now after the midterms. I mean, look what happened in Tennessee. Democrats, failed to pick up the seat, but that was always an uphill battle. It was a plus 22 Trump district in 2024. This is MAGA red Tennessee. But it was way closer than it should have been. And that alone is sending shockwaves through the Republican Party. That coupled with what happened a couple of weeks ago where Republicans lost everywhere. If they get wiped out in the midterms, Trump will only have a couple of years left. He's a lame duck. I mean, and this guy is like deteriorating on a daily basis. If he's even above ground a year from now, who knows what he's going to look and sound like at that point. Anyway, the point is, we may get there. I'm not giving up on impeachment and removal. It's the right thing to do, and who knows, maybe one day. But let me get to this, the war crimes, because now all this, they're clearly trying to set up this Admiral Mitch Bradley, to take the fall on all of this. And I talked about this yesterday. It initially appeared like Trump was setting up Hegseth to take the fall. I think they recalculated, because that's just like reflexive for him, right? Just blame anyone and everyone. But I think maybe his people sat down with him and said, hey, look, we don't want to get rid of Hegseth. All these plans we have to use the military against the American people, to steal the election, to keep you in office illegally, we need a Secretary of Defense who will do whatever you tell him to. And we have that in Pete Hegseth. And if we get rid of him, we're going to have to find someone else just as good for us as Pete Hegseth is. And maybe, certainly it's possible for them to find that person, but that person has to get Senate confirmation. The point is, you're running a risk. They already have a sycophant in place. Pete Hegseth will go along with whatever illegal orders Trump gives him. So maybe we shouldn't throw Hegseth under the bus. So let's throw this Admiral Frank Bradley under the bus. So that's clearly what they're trying to do now here. Pete Hegseth is saying, "Oh, I didn't know there were 2 survivors. I wasn't even in the room for that. After that first strike, I had a meeting. I had to get out of there." Does anyone believe that? No, of course not. That was the first strike. That April 2nd boat strike, that was the first one. You're telling me they planned this? They they blow up the boat and that's it. He just skedaddles out of there. No, nobody believes that. He knew. And anyway, they're clearly trying to pin it on this guy. And he's got a closed door meeting with, is it members of the Senate or I'm trying to scan through this New York Times article this morning. Whatever. It's on Thursday. He's got a closed door meeting with members of Congress about this. A head has to roll. All right. So somebody's got to be offered up, and they're trying to make it this Bradley guy. I saw a link to this New York Times article this morning, and it said, "Will the admiral take the fall?" or something along those lines. Look, he should go down for this. He's a criminal. He's a war criminal. He's a murderer. Because he followed these illegal orders, he carried this out. Or if he did it on his own, but nobody believes he did it on his own. All of everything we know points to Hegseth being all over this and ordering that second strike. But whatever, whether Bradley did it on his own or at the direction of Hegseth, he did it. This was illegal. Blowing up, killing two guys who are no threat whatsoever, clinging to wreckage in the middle of the ocean. Okay, that is a war crime, and it's a murder under our criminal statutes. So he should go down for this. But he's not the only one who should go down for this. Now, this leads me to the main point. And sorry it's taken me a while to get there. By the way, I had a real shit morning today, which maybe I'll talk about later, which is why I'm sort of all over the place here. But here's the point I wanted to make. People are missing the point or losing sight of it because everyone is focused, rightly, on the murder of these two guys. However, the framing of this discussion now is going in a direction where everyone is debating whether or not that was illegal. Blowing up those two survivors, killing them. Was that illegal? Was that a war crime? Was that murder? And if so, who's responsible? I mean, it's right to be focused on that, but what we're missing, and people are taking their eye off the ball on this, is that all of these strikes are illegal. Every damn one of them. And what I'm seeing here now, the framing of this discussion seems to be everyone is now just assuming that the strikes themselves are perfectly fine. It was only the killing of these two guys who had survived the initial attack. That's the problem. If they had just blown up the boat and then rescued the survivors, as the law requires, then everything would have been fine. That seems to be the framing of this whole issue here, which I have a huge problem with because every damn one of these strikes is illegal. Now, I made the mistake last night of flipping through the channels and stopping on CNN. Big fucking mistake, especially at the hour when I did this. It was this panel discussion show hosted by Abby Phillip, who I like. I think she does a pretty good job. She has a show that's just the whole concept of this show is just a fucking disaster. And so, I don't really fault her too much. Although what I do have a problem with these panel discussions in general, because they talk about a whole lot of things, right? Most of these people are not subject matter experts on any of the things they discuss. Because it's always like the same people, like Abby Phillip, okay? Is Abby Phillip a subject matter expert on every issue they discuss? No. There's always there's always the usual cast of characters that I see. Scott Jennings, I think, is on this. Oh, that detestable piece of shit. He's on that show a lot. This other Trump humper, I forget his name. I want to say it's David something. I don't know. He's bald. Not that that's a problem. But anyway, that guy, he's a Trump humper. They got a couple others there. And then of course they have some panelists, um, you know, usual panelists from the left also. The problem is they're there every night discussing all these different subjects as if they're all experts on all those subjects. They're not. And I'm watching these things, and especially when they talk about the law and the Constitution, which, is my area of expertise, and I'm sitting there, I'm going, not a damn one of these people has any friggin' clue what they're talking about, more often than not. And so it's just infuriating to see a panel discussion on a major news network. They're all debating, like they're all arguing with each other. They're all like passionately arguing these points, and not a damn one of them knows what they're talking about from any side of the issue. Like none of them know what they're talking about. And yet they're passionately debating a subject they know nothing about. So I just hate these panel discussions to begin with. But last night they were discussing this blowing up and killing these two guys. And there was one particular Trump humper. I don't know this woman's name, some weird name, hyphenated name, I think. Dark hair. I don't know her name. I don't. I don't know anything about this woman. I think I've seen her on social media. Annoying as shit. Anyway, she was just no idea what she's talking about. And there was a female, I don't know her name. She's a former JAG officer. And she was good. She clearly knew her stuff. She was a subject matter expert as a former JAG officer on this stuff. And she's here trying very calmly to talk to this hysterical ignoramus, which, I mean, how is that beneficial to the audience? One calm, collected, knowledgeable person trying to talk sense to an hysterical Trump humper who has no idea what she's talking about. Anyway, this JAG officer, former JAG officer, she was good. She knew what she was talking about. She's trying to talk sense to this person. It's a losing battle. But the whole conversation was whether or not killing those two people was legal. And the JAG officer, she made her points. She was right. She was good. But none of it went back to the original point, which was that the initial strike was illegal too. Now, the killing of the survivors is also a war crime under international law and under our domestic law. We have adopted certain provisions of the Geneva Conventions into our criminal statutes, and they would apply in this situation. Our own criminal statutes make that murder what happened there. But the conversation, the whole thing seemed to be that, okay, this killing these two guys, was this legal or not? But it just seemed to assume that the initial strike was perfectly fine. The only issue is whether or not the killing of the two survivors was legal. And this is a huge problem, because if this is the direction that this all goes, then pretty much everyone is putting a rubber stamp on the idea of Trump blowing up these boats in the first place. If Trump can just successfully throw this admiral under the bus, make him solely responsible for it, then he can just continue on blowing up these boats, and I guess everybody will just go, okay, well then that's fine then. As long as we all understand that if there's any survivors of the boats, we don't get to murder them. Okay, but just continue blowing them up at will, because apparently that's okay. No, it's not okay. Right? It's still illegal. Trump has no authority. And I saw this idiot, this hysterical Trump humper. She said something to the effect of, this was legal because there's a classified memo from the Justice Department, from the Office of Legal Counsel inside the Justice Department, a classified memo that said, that gave them permission to do this. Couple problems. One, it's classified, so nobody knows what it says. Nobody can even look at the legal reasoning of that memo justifying these boat strikes. That's number one. Number two, a fucking memo isn't legal authority. Okay? That's not how any of this works. A memo is a legal opinion. A legal opinion is not legal authority. But this is what, but she says something like that, and that just was allowed to stand. This is why I hate these friggin' panel discussions. Nobody even corrects that. That just gets allowed to, everybody was like that was a fact. Like, if there is such a legal opinion, then I guess these boat strikes are legal. Perfectly fine, because some hack lawyer in the DOJ wrote a memo saying it's okay, so it must be okay. And then she goes, this is their favorite go-to, these fucking ignorant Trump humpers. They always say, Article 2. Is Article 2 power? None of them knows what's in Article 2, right? None of them have read it. None of them know how Article 2, what it says in there to begin with, and how it functions vis-a-vis Article 1 and Article 3 and all the other provisions of the Constitution. But they just throw this out. This is some sort of persuasive argument in Trump world. He's exercising his Article 2 authority. No, that's not how it works. You don't just get to say, well, I have Article 2 authority. What does that mean? It's plenary authority in all aspects. Oh, you have Article 2 authority, so you can do whatever the fuck you want. No, Article 2 lists the president's authority. But you have to go past the words Article 2. You have to actually read what's in there. It lays out what authorities he has. And nothing in Article 2 gives him the authority to do these boat strikes. In fact, it makes it clear that he has no authority to do these boat strikes. There's only two circumstances under which this would be legal. One is if he got authorization of Congress, which he didn't get. The second is if he's acting in the immediate defense of the country against a threat that is so serious and imminent that there is no time to go to Congress for authorization, and two, it requires the use of lethal force to defend the country against this significant imminent threat. Is that the case here? No. We're talking about small boats 1,000 miles from our shores carrying some cocaine, if Donald Trump is even to be believed. Okay, and there's good reason to believe that at least some of these people were friggin' fishermen. Some of these people may well have been refugees. Some of these people may not have been drug smugglers at all. But even if they were, so what? That's not an act of war. And they're 1,000 miles away in a little boat with an outboard motor. How far can they go with the gas on board? 50 miles maybe? They would have to refuel how many friggin' times? They can't even reach us. All right? Anyway, there was no imminent threat. So they didn't have authority from Congress, no imminent threat. So there is no legal basis for Donald Trump to conduct these strikes in the first place, which is what's pissing me off in all of this, because we have a clear, fundamental, and egregious violation of the Constitution and our laws for Trump even conducting these strikes in the first place. But now, because of the murder of these two survivors, that seems to be pushed aside. The only focus is whether or not killing those two survivors was legal, and it just seems to be that everyone is just okay with the idea of the boat strikes in general. And it's only whether or not killing these two survivors was legal. And that is the point that everybody is friggin' missing. We should not be moving on from that. That should be part of the discussion. I was really hoping that this thing, killing these survivors, rightfully that's getting all kinds of attention. I was hoping that would spark more focus on the larger context of the illegality and the unconstitutionality of these strikes in the first place. But it seems that the exact opposite is happening. Knew this was going to happen. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.